Today, we're going to be going over a wide receiver football IQ quiz to test your knowledge of the position. So if you're not familiar with our quiz style videos, you guys, what we do is we'll show a pre-snap look like the one on the screen right here. We'll kind of ask you a series of questions about the look. How would you run a certain route versus a certain coverage, etc. Give you guys a chance to pause the video, and then we'll break down why your answer is right or wrong when you answer the question. So first things first, first question we're going to start with. We're going to show a negative example of this route first, and then we will show a positive example of how it's supposed to be run after. First things first, first question. How would you guys run a three-step slant versus this specific coverage look? So how would you guys run a three-step slant versus this coverage look? So you guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So first things first, as a wide receiver, when I come up to the line of scrimmage, I want to come up with a plan of action, right? My plan of action is all based on how this DB is lined up, aka his leverage. So whether he's inside shade, whether he's right in front of me, whether he's outside shade, and then the distance he is away from me, right? So this DB's lined up, I would say, shaded to the inside. How you guys are able to tell when you're watching clips of film like this is pay attention to something called a midline. It's an imaginary line that goes right through the DB's like head, I guess you could say, or like the middle of his body. If the middle of his body is even with our front foot, that tells me that he's inside shade, because that means that his left foot in this case will be to the inside of me. He's trying to protect his inside leverage. He's trying to protect the inside. If his midline is even with my back foot, that means that he's outside leverage. So that's kind of a good way to be able to tell. And then if his midline is even with my midline, that tells you that he's head up. So this DB's lined up inside shade. His goal being inside shade is to not let us run an inside breaking route, like a dig, like a post, or like a slant, right? Now, if I have to run something like a post route or a dig route, I would assume most of you guys that keep up with this page know that, okay, I'm not going to force the inside release, because a lot of people think that just because I have to run an inside breaking route, it's mandatory. I have to get an inside release. Not always the case. The DB, unless it's like mandatory inside release, like that's something that your coach says before the play starts, or that's the way it's designed, or mandatory outside release, your release is based off of how this DB is lined up. So if he's inside shade, I'm not going to force that inside release. He will not give it up that easy. He will get hands. He will reroute me inside, and the spacing of the play is going to be off, you guys. It's going to, like, let's say we had to run a double post concept and you got rerouted and your post is right on top of the slot. It's horrible spacing. One defender could guard both of those routes, and that's not good. That's not good play spacing, you guys. So I think most of you know this. If he's inside shade and I had to run a post or a dig, I'd attack him inside, take the outside release and work to stack, or if he's with me at the break point, I'd slip under him, throw back, etc. Okay, cool. I think we all know that. Now, what if he's inside shade, but my route's a three-step slant? I can't do that. I can't attack his leverage and stack him. I don't have enough time. So you would go with something called a diamond release. So a diamond release where you attack this DB's outside shoulder and his outside hip for 3 hard steps. You're running hard at his outside shoulder for 3 hard steps, and our goal is to make him think we are running a fade. So I'm going to play this full speed. Now, remember, this is a bad example of this wide receiver doing this route. So he doesn't necessarily attack the DB's leverage inside, or excuse me, he doesn't necessarily attack his outside shoulder. He doesn't attack his leverage, I guess you could say. He just gives kind of a fake to the outside. That's not believable enough, you guys. A simple jab is not going to be enough to get this DB to fully commit, fully open up his hips so we could slip back underneath him and win spacing on the route. If we just give a quick jab, even if I sell it, even if I have the best footwork off the line, DB is going to hold his leverage. Now, would this probably get called as holding? Yeah, absolutely. But my slant route can't get taken way to the inside. So even if this DB doesn't hold, in a real game scenario, the spacing is not going to be there, guys. So it needs to be more than just a jab step to the outside. Now, let's look at this positive example here of this wide receiver actually executing a diamond release. DB's lined up inside shade, trying to take away the inside route. We don't have time to be able to stack him because it's a 3-step slant. Now, before I show this positive example, you guys, if you're a wide receiver and you would like to train with us this offseason, we are coming out to 8 more states across the country for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Buffalo, New York, Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Then we'll be heading out to Detroit, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, and Los Angeles, California. Guys, 6 out of the 8 remaining camps are completely sold out, but we have 2 more remaining in Detroit, Michigan, and Los Angeles, California. So guys, if you're local to one of those camps. Those camps will sell out this week, you guys. So make sure you take advantage of that if you would like to attend when we're in Detroit or when we're in Los Angeles. So guys, check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested and would like to sign up. So again, very first link in that description below. And also, guys, if you would like to be added to a wait list, if you're local to one of these cities that we have not traveled to yet, again, very first link in the description below. It's where all the information is on how you could reach out to us and get added to our wait list. So guys, again, very first link below. Let's get back to this video. So now let's show this positive example here, right? So this wide receiver comes off the ball, hard 3 steps of the DB's outside shoulder. That gets him to flip. And again, that's the separation element. The wide receiver in the last clip, he had the right idea. He's not going to force the inside release, going to try to give him something outside. But if I don't actually run hard, this DB's not going to budge, you guys. He's not going to give up his inside leverage, and that's what he's taught to do. At least a disciplined DB. And I'm trying to prepare you guys for a disciplined DB. So to run that 3-step slant versus inside shade press, I got to take a hard 3 steps at that outside shoulder, outside hip. They call that a diamond release, and that's what can get us separation and allow us to slip underneath. Great example of that by this wide receiver here. Okay, so now, fellas, next example here. How would you guys run a 10-yard out versus this specific coverage? So how would you guys run a 10-yard out route versus this specific coverage? You guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So this is an easy one, right? You got a DB who's lined up inside shade, and we have to run an outside breaking route. That should be easy money. But one of the common mistakes that a lot of wide receivers make, and that's what this wide receiver makes right here, is that you just kind of like take off and go run because he's inside shade. You kind of take your release for granted in a sense. And I get it. You want to get up into the route fast. You want to go get into your out route, especially if it's an out route or a corner route. Those are timing routes, right? So I can't waste a ton of time off the ball. However, what you want to do, if this is what you guys said, you want to attack this DB's leverage to the inside. By attacking his leverage, I mean like throwing a fake to the inside. Make him think we're trying to release inside because you know he's taught to not give that up. That's the best way to get him to move. So if I get him to move off that platform, then we take that outside release. My goal always is to restack a DB when it's press coverage, which means get him like trailing behind me. And if I can't do that and we're hip to hip, I'm leaning into him. I'm using my body. I'm quote unquote getting skinny. So when I break it off, I have some room for my quarterback. But watch what this receiver does. He just kind of takes off and tries to beat him with speed. But guys, that is a very, very tough throw for a QB timing-wise. Let me explain. So an out route when it's drawn up on paper, you guys, I'll draw it over here. Let's say this is a receiver, and let's say he's running an out route. This is from a quarterback perspective because I have perspective of both positions. The receiver is running that out route. Quarterback is expecting him to go vertical for 10, break out. That's how he's expecting the route to be ran, right? Now, if we run our route like this, let me erase that. If we run our route like this and then break out, that is very, very hard for the quarterback to adjust. That is very, very tough for his timing because you're essentially cutting off the angle of the route and you're getting to the break point too fast. And when we widen out like this, we're not giving the quarterback a lot of room to the sideline to be able to lead us. So that's a very, very tough throw from him. It's a rushed throw. We want to run quarterback-friendly routes. So what I would suggest to him is like off the ball, instead of just trying to just beat him with speed and running to the outside, let's attack him inside. Let's try to give him some type of fake jab. And I want to take this hip and go right past his outside hip so I get skinny and I could get vertical till 10 because that's what the quarterback is expecting me to do. And then I got all this space for the QB to lead me, and I was on his timing. So guys, we can't just run away. Do not take your release for granted. Make sure you are attacking this DB's leverage, even if we have to run an outside breaking route versus an inside shade press guy. Okay, so this next route is going to be kind of a change in pace. I'm going to show the route and then ask you what this wide receiver ultimately did wrong right here, okay? So this is a great play by this DB. I want to say it was an interception. Ball was a touch late, but the receiver didn't do himself any favors, so let's talk about why, okay? So guys, I want to ask you this. Why didn't this route work? That's what I want you to think about. Why do you think this route did not work? Because it's the right idea. Outside release, got inside shade press. So why do you guys think this route did not work at the top? Why was this DB to be able to be all over this thing? So you guys can watch it one more time and then we'll break down the answer. So why do you think this route did not work? So at the break point, you guys, whenever I got a DB who's in man-to-man coverage, this is the correct answer. This is what you guys said you'd be correct. Anytime I got a DB who's in man coverage, where are his eyes supposed to be? hips, right? This DB's eyes might even be a little bit high right now, but as he gets in phase of this route, his eyes start to get into a disciplined spot, DB's going to be watching our hips, man-to-man coverage. He's reading our body language. So if I have to run a route like a stop route or maybe like a comeback route, maybe like a curl route, a route where I have to drop my hips, the slower we drop my hips, the more time this DB has to react. So at the break point, guys, I don't want you to think of it like I got to sink my hips. I want you to think of it like I have to drop my hips. I want the drop to be a violent drop of your hips. So what this wide receiver does is just his hips are just a little bit too slow, especially when a DB's watching our hips and he starts to feel us start to sink down. It's not a quick level change, it's not a quick drop, a quick change in my center of gravity. He has more time to react. Now, the problem, too, with the slower hip drop, and it's not like this wide receiver didn't get low enough. Just when the hip drop is slow, it's harder to decelerate faster. It takes you longer to come to a complete stop because your center of gravity is not getting as low as we quickly can. So, again, that makes the route slower, and that gives the DB more time to recover. So, guys, at the break point, you don't want to think of it like, okay, I'm just going to sit down, sink my hips. I tell my wide receivers to pretend like you got a string attached to your chin and somebody's pulling the string straight down. You were trying to bring your chest to your quads as quickly as possible. Because, guys, the quicker we drop, less time the DB has to react, and you're still getting to a low enough position. It just needs to happen faster. So our mindset, anytime I'm running routes, anytime I'm doing drill work, anytime where I have to drop my hips, I'm trying to be as aggressive as possible. Get to the lowest position of your break, the position where you can decelerate as quickly as you can, because that will give the DB less time to react, will stop quicker, and that'll get us more separation. So if that's what you guys said, that would be 100% correct. That's the answer that at least I was looking for. We don't want to sink my hips. We want a violent drop of my hips.